Level Up is a regular podcast that brings you topics to help you perform at work and in life at your very highest level. Your host is Dan Chiodo, an executive coach, corporate trainer, and author. He is president of Impact Training and Executive Coaching. And now, here's Dan.
Thanks, Jesse. And to our audience, thank you for joining us for Level Up. We want to give you things to know to help you grow. This is episode number 68, which happens to be the last one of the year. So we wanted to bring you something special. Let's get started with our guest who has really made a difference, not only in the business community, but in the community in general and in people's lives. This person has worked in several different fields, which has always given her such a diversified perspective of things. I met her when she was the mall manager and marketing director of the North Park Mall in Joplin, Missouri. It was the famous shopping hub for consumers who lived in outskirting towns that were miles away. Then I knew her as the proprietor of George's Dinette, which we're going to talk about later. Presently, she turned her talents to the automotive industry. She is a delivery specialist and trainer at a Subaru dealership in the Midwest. This lady makes great things happen with all that she touches. And we look at today's organizations and we find that they want to create experiences. Well, that's what she does for both customers and prospects. That's always been her niche. So let's meet, are you ready for this? The queen of stepping things up, having success, and making a difference, Georgia Turner. Welcome, Georgia.
Well, thank you. And I'm a little bit humbled by that. I didn't know all those things about me.
Well, yes. And I really, when I said the queen part, I should have had music in the background, but we don't have it today. So low budget podcast, you know.
Yeah, right.
So, hey, if we look at some of what you've done, we might think you grew up in a more metropolitan area, but I don't think that's the case. Tell us where you were born and a little bit about the town.
Well, I was actually born near Lubbock, Texas, out on the high plains, and raised by fourth generation Texans. So my grandmother decided she'd grown up in Arkansas in the trees, and her husband took her all the way to the flat plains and dust and dirt, and she was a OCD cleaner. So she got the chance when he passed away to try to find something back with green around it. So I don't know the whole story. My parents and friends, and anyway, I guess we looked like the Clampetts coming across Oklahoma to Southwest Missouri. I was a near baby, and I grew up on a farm. My grandmother, they bought two farms near Diamond, Granby area. And so I grew up on the farm. It was just straight out of Diamond, Missouri at the time I grew up. And it was straight out of the 50s, straight out of, Happy Days. I mean, it was, all rolled into one. My grandmother and uncle lived around the corner. I'd walk on the dirt road to there by myself, which we wouldn't do today. It was probably 3/4 of a mile. So it was truly what you see all those memes about. I grew up on walking barefoot and helping with the cattle, the cows and the farm. I love to jump out of the barn lofts. I mean, just, in high school, we were all a team, just 33 people in my graduating class. But I was the one who did organize the hay rides and things like that. But anyway, it was Mayberry plus, yeah. And it was my mom, my older sister was 6 years older. She was a bookworm, and I was the adventurer outside 24/7 if I could be. Hated winter. In the trees, building tree houses, whatever I could do, riding bikes. So I love the outdoors. That came from my father. I love food, hence, I guess, a restaurant. I don't know why I did that. Yeah, I do. But my parents were unusual because they were born in 1912 and 13, and they didn't get married till they were past 30 because the depression and all, and then they grew up through the depression, through the war, had me after the war, and my sister during the war. Dad actually went to Canada, but they were foodies. I didn't realize what one was, but that's how I grew up. And I am the virtual health nut, and I don't apologize because they were worried about chemicals being sprayed before anybody ever gave it a thought. Dad experimented with making corn grow green with eggshells. And I didn't know all this. I thought everybody just woke up and your mother made you this gourmet breakfast, this gourmet lunch, and this gourmet dinner. I thought everybody ate like that. I found out later that wasn't true. So their quest in life was food, where to get the best fruit. He'd go after peaches. He'd go in Oklahoma and get a watermelon. They grew up with watermelon and cotton in West Texas. So I grew up with that. And that I've realized as I've gotten older has really shaped me. I guess the steadiness of my mother and father, the family, and definitely the food.
That's it. What a great background. Now, somewhere there after high school, I guess you decided you wanted to go off to college, right?
Oh, well, we were bred that way. My parents had gone in West Texas. They were unusual for their age. They did that too. They went to Wayland Baptist College up in Plainview, Texas. That's when the dad proposed. They rode up there together. The families knew each other, So I never doubted I was going, and neither did my sister, but we took a different track. I finished my master's later in life, but so did she. She went through cancer treatments and went to school every day, and then her husband would take her for radiation treatments in Springfield, and she finished her degree. And she was, 30-ish, past 30, and got a computer science degree. I mean, she was all interested in technology. So we were, maybe a little different that way, but we had to go. And all three of my kids have gone. I've got two with masters and one with a Bachelor of Fine Arts. I mean, I guess we just never doubted that you went high school, college, in that order.
That's a beautiful thing. So you got your bachelor's and got the master's later in life.
Yes, I did. Mm-hmm.
Yes. But it's very interesting. Some of the fields you've worked in, do you find that you use any of what you studied in college?
I think history, I wish I had been an architect, but that being said, back in the day, that wasn't probably an option too much for me, or you didn't think about it, or we were told you go be a teacher, or I thought I was going to be a professor of history forever. And I loved it. It was easy for me. The difference is history was easy for me, but was it really what I was in my soul? You have to look a long time to find that. Because really in my soul, it was building houses or, it was doing mechanical building. That's what my dad, I was his only son, I said. And I followed him around, learned how to change oil in a car and tires and build things and hit the hammer. If you didn't get a nail in the board with 3 hits, he said you were bad.
Yes.
So one time we had a nail driving contest in high school, and I actually won the stupid thing because my dad, over the boys and everything, 3 hits, and I had it in there. Wow. So there was really more of that in me than I realized late in life. But as a woman, I'm going to bring that up a few times. Mm-hmm. In that era, I didn't even think about a degree in mechanics, architecture, things that I scored high in. But I could ace also, I guess I had a good left and right brain going, I could ace a history test like that too, because I had very good teacher, Mr. Dekoff and Diamond, who was my history teacher, and we all loved him, and he inspired me, and he was, an inspiration. But on a personal note, I was going through a hard time at 30, a divorce, and I had 3 kids, and I hauled them off to Springfield and did my master's and aced it because they were very kind to let me bring my 2.5-year-old to class because she's very quiet. She's very quiet. So, I don't know. It was the easier way to go. And this is what I would tell people. You're trying to talk to people who wonder what they should do or if they're younger or whatever. I told you that before, that quote from Rumi. Do whatever turns up the corners of your mouth. It's just whatever you find that spark inside you. Because when I started redoing my farmhouse, and I did it all, and I drew out the plans, I could do that all night long. It was just one of those things where you are engaged. Like they say, when the artist or the athlete finds the zone. That's the way I was. And even my blessed mother, bless her heart, who always wanted this college thing, but when she saw the house I redid, the old farmhouse, it was one of my highlights of doing that for them. And I got to live next to them until they passed away. She stood out there and looked at it and she said, I think you missed your calling. And I almost cried because I thought, yes, I really did. But I always had to strive, not thrive. In other words, I always had to make a living. I was mostly a single parent. I've made some mistakes, on one side of my life, but it's called getting married to the, that was never my strong suit. But my goodness, I knew she knew and I knew, and it was, what am I going to do at 50, something like that? I'm not going to get an architectural degree, although I probably should have tried that.
Well, I think whenever you're having fun in what you do, and when I watched you in some of your other careers, it seemed to me you were having fun. So I think that's a big part of it. But I was going to ask you a little later, but I will ask now. Some of my clients, I will ask them, if you were redesigning your life, where would you start?
Yes.
And you bring up being an architect sometimes. That you would have been a great architect too. Well,
I found out I was building houses with my last husband for a while. And I did, it was a very happy place. And I did find that I had a bit of creativity about it. That was sad for me because I knew I would probably never get to use that. But it's just, you've got to find what gets you in that zone and go for it. And I feel like now there were things with each job. For instance, what you may not realize is I love when I was managing the mall, I walked out every day. I could find every piece of dirt and crack in the tile there was. I did my mechanical kind of building maintenance thing all the time. And that's what I enjoyed. I crawled up on the roof to make sure the heating and air guys were up there doing right. But I enjoyed that part of it. Of course, I enjoy people. So there's 2 sides of me. I'm a people person, and then I like that mechanical part. So I did the people person part, walking up and down the mall, taking care of customers, store owners. But I did a lot of the mechanical. I was watching out for all of the building. I'd watch them build out a store, set up things. It was partly a mechanical job. So I did enjoy it. Well, it's the same with the restaurant. I liked decorating it, putting things in order, making sure things worked. And so it was part people and the same thing I'm doing here. I'm doing really more mechanical technical stuff, but I also have great super customers are fantastic. So I'm having a lot of fun with that too.
That is so good. Along with what you say about what turns up the corners of your mouth, what really sounds like fun for people. And by the way, it's never too late. Colonel Sanders started
I know
AFC when he was 65. So that's when it started for him. So I think that's really important to know. And then also what you just said, I was noticing this morning a younger person who got a job in managing a gated community. And so they have to be there on the property. This person's been there for about 6 to 9 months, I'd say. And the interesting thing is that I don't see him getting up from his chair when he comes in the morning. He's there, and I keep looking, thinking there's so much you're missing out there.
Right.
And there's so many people that you're missing out there.
Right.
And I just think, to hear what you did at the mall. And the other thing, too, we always are told, listen more than you talk. Because when you're listening, you're learning. And I just wanted to say to you, I've always felt that way about you. I've always felt like when I listen, I walk away from that conversation and I've learned something.
Oh, I hope so.
So whether that's the history in you or the people part of you, whatever.
Oh, believe me, I'm here with 20-year-olds. And if they're all about ready to, do we have to do the history lesson when you tell us something? Yes. You need to know the background. You have to go, because I guess I turned history into my avocation. I can't give it up. I was published in it and all that stuff. I can't turn it away. I went to the museum, the Truman Library, to do my thesis. So at night, I just keep a stack of historical books. I just got Truman's new one, Accidental President. Got to read that one. So I really keep my hand in it. It's kind of a love on the side, but it should have been the opposite. In other words, that should have always been an avocation, a fun side thing I did, a side interest. And then I should have been able to pursue as a woman. I hate to say it that way, because a lot of men have helped me out. I'm not man bashing. It's just that the world wasn't set up in the...
It was a little different. Yeah.
There's 50s, 60s to accommodate me. And I didn't know how. I didn't have skills. Probably small town girl. I suppose it hurt a little bit, but I'd rather have that. I would rather be where I was, than it was good for me. But it gave me a stability. It sure did when I got out there. But it was also a little shocking. I will tell you, I think sometimes we do coddle a little too much. And my mother was legendary at that because she had trouble having children. So she was a helicopter mom before there were any. In a way, they gave me a lot of freedom, but she was very much, there. I was very lucky. They were very stable. But when I got out in the world, no one told me, that you don't get a job because you're a woman. I've run into that right here in my beloved Joplin, Missouri, more than once. But you don't get some jobs because you're a woman. They didn't bring me up that way. They didn't bring me up to be prejudiced. The sky's the limit. If you go to college, blah, blah, blah. So I was a bit taken back as things when I went out in the real world.
Thank goodness you pushed through some of those barriers, though, to hold some of the positions you did.
Yes, the mall was a big one. You might be surprised to find out that was the meanest regional boss I ever had in my life. And he actually took me to 1201 for lunch, and I didn't have an iPhone. It should have been recorded. And he leans over and says, because I've been through 3 managers. And he looked at me and said, well, I'm going to go ahead and give you this job because we don't have a man in the company that will move to Joplin.
Oh.
So I may have broken through a barrier, but it was because evidently no one wanted to move to Joplin.
Wow. I'm just glad there wasn't a food fight during that lunch. That would not be good. Well, hey, I want to come back and talk about Georgia's Dinette and a few other things, but this is a perfect time for a break. I am Dan Chiodo, your host. My guest today is Georgia Turner. You're watching Level Up, and we'll be right back after this.
Here is F45 training. The F stands for functional training, a mix of circuit and HIIT style workouts geared towards everyday movement. 45 is the total amount of time for sweat dripping and heart pumping fun. With thousands of exercises in our database and an almost infinite amount of combinations, our sessions are always fresh and innovative. Put that all together, and F45 training is here to bring you one of the world's most innovative workouts. Now let's take a class. Find your local F45 studio from our locations all around the globe. Once inside, our trainers will be there to greet you and check you in. First, we'll demo each exercise while you watch from the blue track. A warm-up will follow, then it's time to find your station. Want to play-by-play? Track your heart rate with F45 Lionheart. Ready in 3, 2, 1, it's go time. F45 TV will guide you. F45 FM will move you. And our trainers will support you every step of the way. This is team training. This is life-changing. This is F45.
We are back. Thanks for being with us. We are talking to Georgia Turner. She is my guest today. Georgia, you've talked about the different turns you took in life and all the different things you did. And I wanted to talk a little bit about after the mall part, where you were the manager there, and then the diner that you started. And I want you to just talk about that diner because I've been there and I want to give you my impression of what I saw there too. So talk about it a little bit.
Well, it was an adventure. I'd always kind of wanted my own business. And I enjoyed the mall. It was difficult to give it up after 11 years, but I thought, well, at this age, if I don't try something, it's never going to happen. And that honestly, personally involved a husband. He was willing to help me do that. Nobody had really helped me do that. So I thought it was a good deal. I had a close friend who had also opened one in Columbus, a barbecue place over there. And so she helped, and it all, started out well. I used my history degree there, obviously, because I did the 40s theme with the music and the wallpaper and, oh my goodness. Well, and again, that was the fun part of putting it together was the decor. I insisted on big band music being played all the time. We had a loop going with that. I had good old American food. I mean, we even called the Rosie the Riveter Reuben and the turkey Truman sandwich or something. I mean, I used everything I could think of in the Roosevelt roast beef. Anyway, it was fun. And I think probably one of the cutest moments is I had a couple come in and they sat up front in a booth and they were kind of holding hands and I talked to them and they had met at Camp Crowder during the war and they had gotten married. He was from New York and she was from Joplin and they had been part of Camp Crowder romance that a few, and they sat there and just, they thanked me over and over. Oh, this brings back such great memories and music. And, that was kind of a confirmation for me. They were very grateful. And again, great people I got to meet, running a business. That was a challenge because the restaurant business is a challenge. So I did that for 5 years, but my parents started going downhill and in fact, there's somehow the drama. Someone bought it and we had to close on Monday and my mother died at 2 a.m. on Friday. And I had to go through the weekend getting things out and close the deal and do a funeral all in like 3 days there over a weekend. So, we got through that and sold it eventually to Granny Schaefer's, but it was, it's something I certainly won't forget. And I still have people who stop me on the street and are mad, that it's not there because they loved. There are 3 or 4 things that everybody still misses.
Well, I have to tell you, I don't get to Joplin much, but I'm a little upset too about it not being there because for our family, it became the place to go. And the kids, they always love fast food. And then once we would take them to other cities and restaurants there, Chicago, New York, our son especially discovered what he called it then slow food. So he wanted to go to a slow food place. But beyond that, it was always, if we wanted to go out to eat, well, why can't we go to George's? Yeah. That's where they wanted to go. And just what you described is how you made, when you walked through those doors, you felt like you were back in those times in the 40s. And that Roosevelt roast beef, my wife was mentioning that this morning. She said, ask her about the Roosevelt roast beef because it was so special. And so that's what I say about you and creating experiences. It's just the best.
When I created that restaurant, that's exactly what you just said is what I had in my head. The smell should be there. The temperature should be right, not freezing. The smell, the taste, the sounds, it should be an immersive experience for the customer. I didn't know if anybody picked up on that, but that was my goal.
Yeah. Well, and here in Florida and other places I go, even in your area when I come back, every eating establishment has to have it freezing inside.
That's right.
Bring a sweater, coat. And I'm thinking, why not comfortable temperature?
I agree. The music talking to me, I wanted conversation. Mm-hmm. So music at a certain level. And nowadays, I think everybody's deaf from listening too much music the wrong way. Nobody can go in and just have the right light, atmosphere, smell, taste. Every sense should be tweaked. And believe me, I've become a terrible restaurant critic. In fact, I wondered if I should do that because I go in and I can immediately sense what they've got wrong. Mm-hmm. There's going to be one of those things are a bit off. And service, of course. And good food. I mean, there's a lot of ways. My friend Irma, you might have remembered Irma, who started with me. And I mean, she was the master chef of getting the taste just right. She would say, we're going to wake it up, mm-hmm. Make that soup. So many people came in for her chicken vegetable soup and they would buy quarts to go take to the hospital. It was a work of nature, that thing. We even videoed her and we couldn't make it like she could. But it was the best thing I've ever put in my mouth. And I still, But anyway, it all had to give people that feeling, all around feeling.
Yeah, this is what you're talking about is so pertinent for today because the new discussion is all about, okay, it's not just your products and your services, but you have to create experiences. And that's exactly what you've always done. And tell us a little bit about the field you're in now and the experiences you provide there.
Well, I came up with this job accidentally, like most of them. There's nothing planned. And it was a new position with Subaru of America. They realized that the technology was getting crazy in cars. And we have a lot of older clientele around here. I mean, it scares them to death when they see it, it's a big screen and all this stuff to touch on it. So a friend of mine who, by the way, was worked at the mall. I have a lot of mall people come back and Friend I had worked with the Joplin Blasters had said, Georgia's looking for a job because that had gone south. And he said, oh, I've got one. Okay, she's hired. He said, I don't need a resume. Just tell her to come here and fill out the paper. And because he'd watched me market the place. So I went to Ohio and did training. And this was a brand new, from the get-go thing that they were experimenting with. There was no, will there be a future in it or not? But it's turned out to be something they're adamant about because their scores on delivery satisfaction has just skyrocketed with J.D. Powers from 18th to number 1. So they're one of the most customer-centered big corporations I've ever come across. And I went, ooh, I could work for them because that's the way I am. They're thinking of the customer experience, as you say. And it's been 6 years and it's been an amazing journey. It's a thing. Well, I wish I'd done that at 42, but Subaru's one of the top 10 companies to work for on a national 100 companies. So there's a reason, and they are about customer service and customer experience. The amount of community stuff we do, which I'm big on. I mean, I did that all. And you had to give back to the community. Well, we have 5 modules we do all year long. We gave $20,000 to Ronald McDonald House through Christmas. We have Subaru Loves the Earth. Subaru Loves to Share, or Loves to Care. Subaru Loves Learning, where we give several years, we've given like 250 STEM books to McKinley. And we've also given them, Subaru's given them a grant that the teachers could use during COVID because they weren't shipping out things like that. And they gave them a grant of $5,000 that the teachers got to buy supplies with. I mean, this is the kind of stuff they do. And we don't get enough credit for that. But I just did a wall here. I just did 2 walls that talks about all this, our community involvement. But, that was a big attraction for me. Well, first, I'm doing something mechanical and technical.
Yeah.
I have to learn about the cars. I have to be able to sit with people and learn about them and know exactly what they want to use in it, what will help them. If they're going to use Apple CarPlay or if they're not, or if they're going to want to have radio settings all done for them, or, how to do their cruise control. And they're one of the safest cars in America. So I feel good about helping people with them. But the community thing really is impressive, and again, that experience for the community. So we're taking off here in the new building, and it's been a fun journey. Subaru people, oh my gosh, I've got them from Northwest Arkansas up to Nevada to Pittsburgh to Springfield. I've even traveled to Springfield to teach people about their Subarus. So it's been quite a journey. They bring me gifts. One's offered their home near the Gulf Coast for a vacation. I mean, how can you beat that? They are really, they're just people who themselves have made a difference, in the world. They're very exciting group of people. We're a little weird, but we are.
Well, weird is good. I think you have to, color outside the box. Outside.
They're not weird. Let's just say that Subaru people are a different and more adventuresome people. And we don't have problems with credit scores. They're all done very well educated for the most part. 80% of the time, very like to go up in the mountains, go to the beach, go to they're adventurers, and that's what Subarus are for, which is an exciting bunch of people.
Yeah. Sounds to me like a lot of the things that you love have come to life in this particular position. So
yes,
It's great. I wish we had more time, but
No.
Maybe I can talk you into coming back in 2023 because I have more questions. Would that be all right?
Why not? You, Dan?
Here's a quote that I did want to throw in here with you because I found this quote one time. It says, "Some people make things happen. Some people watch things happen. Some people wonder what happened." So you definitely make things happen, Georgia. And I just think that's...
I'm amazed to see that, but thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
your history is so rich, your history, but also hearing you talk about it. But yeah, I definitely have you back.
Well, we could do that again. That finding your spot for your listeners or finding your way, there's so many tools to do that now. And I think they need to figure out who they are early on and follow that gut feeling. Emerson said to be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else. That's a great accomplishment. And that's what people should think about.
That's good. I think you've landed on our topic for the next podcast.
There we go.
Perfect. And check out the show notes from this podcast. You're going to find that. This episode will be in our Level Up library very soon. And Dustin, I know you'll have a few final words, but my final word is cheers.
If you feel like this information was valuable to you, Dan would love it if you'd click the like button and subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions or thoughts about today's episode, please leave a comment. Also, if you're a first-time subscriber, be sure to ring that bell to be notified about future episodes. To learn more about what Impact Training and Development can do for you and your business, visit impactbydan.com, where you can find more information about executive coaching, corporate training, keynote speaking, and much more. Thanks so much for watching.